proceeds from tonight are going towards our next trip to South Carolina this summer, and also are helping to kind of underwrite the next exciting step for American Tribute Days, which will be having kids from South Carolina come up to New York.
With these two crazy high school buddies for 10 days, you know, what was the takeaway for you guys as parents?
I think this made me realize that he was ready to go off to college, because I didn't hear from him for 10 days. And every time I told him, he's like, I'm just really busy. I'm having a good time. Goodbye, I gotta go. So knowing that I never had to worry, and that, you know, never like, I don't know about this, maybe I wanna come, like, it really made me realize how mature he is at this point, ready to go off to school. And I think it also made him realize how much he loved the South. So.
Right. And Zach is going to Alabama this fall.
The biggest thing I think we got out of it was when Emma was gone, we didn't hear from her a lot either, but when she got back was how the differences she saw in the groups of people in the South weren't that different than she thought, because we grew up in this area where you don't see a lot of the stuff that, you know, different socioeconomic backgrounds and things that people see down there, and I think they probably had the same idea about our kids, and then they all, you know, kind of realized we were a lot more closely alike than different. And I think that helps you be more tolerant as they get older, and especially when they're going to go off to school and stuff. And a lot of our kids go to the South, and it is very different. I think that's the biggest thing that we got out of it.
I agree with everything that both parents said. I think for me, the big takeaway was the appreciation for not just the cultures and the different experiences, but the time in Washington, D.C. I would have never thought this from a kid that plays softball and, you know, thinks about STEM classes more than just about anything else. Really got a great understanding of the Library of Congress and the great work that people do just to preserve our history and how important that is. And another takeaway from their time in Washington, D.C. was how much, how young, first of all, how many people, but then how young some of the folks doing that work are. She talked about that a lot, and it was just, I didn't expect it, but it was certainly, you know, as a parent, it makes you happy, like, oh, you really, I don't know, grabbed onto something that I wouldn't even thought of been a benefit of the trip. But also, for those parents that are sending their kids off with these two guys, and really not sure, just fantastic, great job. Michael does a great job socializing every minute of every day. So while you might not get a direct phone call or email from your kid, you're going to see it online. Just follow their social channels, and they were just good shepherds, just really safe. Never thought a minute about their safety or well-being, or just treated these kids like their own. So thank you to these two guys. You really did that.
Thank you. So the question is, you know, what was the fun or most coolest part, whatever you guys want to share. And they're going to try not to repeat, so let's see what happens.
Okay. Overall, there's obviously so many fun memories and a lot of unexpected things. One specific moment is when we went to Cypress Garden Swamps, and it was in a scene from The Notebook and Outer Banks, which is like two of our favorite movies and shows. So like getting to tell our friends that we like went, we're actually in the swamp, and it was so beautiful. And that was my favorite.
One of my favorite moments was probably when we went to this family's plantation, I think it was the Fields was the last name, and we were able to do a cooking class, and it was very hands-on. We were able to get a really new experience being with that family, learning about their culture, what they do on a day-to-day basis, and just seeing like the work they put in and how committed they are to their job even when it gets rough, which I thought was super interesting because even with the farms here, like that was just like such a different perspective on it to see how deep into their job they go to make things work for themselves and how committed they are to doing what they love.
My favorite thing was probably going kayaking in Charleston, I think.
Yep.
We saw dolphins, which is pretty cool. We saw a baby dolphin, which is cooler, in my opinion. I accidentally pushed her into the water. I mean, it was kind of her fault, but...
By the way, I still have a scar on my foot.
It was definitely your fault, though.
It wasn't.
But that was probably my favorite part, because, I don't know, kayaking school.
Alright, so my favorite moment wasn't necessarily a moment, but instead of a series of days, which was the 2 days that we were in DC, when we were able to meet a lot of the government representatives and people in the government. And honestly, I think it kind of inspired me to further pursue a leadership position in student government, which I am in now, and I'm planning on continuing that pathway for the next 4 years, and hopefully, or next 2 years. I sometimes forget that I'm not a freshman. And hopefully I'll win student president. But, and so yeah, I think it really inspired me to further pursue leadership position, which I never really considered before meeting those policymakers.
My favorite memory is probably talking to some kids our age at Cracker Barrel. First off, the pancakes were really good, and also they like live such different lives. They said like they just find random stuff to do every day. They don't, cause like there's not much. They said there's not much to do at all down there, so they just like find random stuff to do every day. They said they like sneak out a lot, and just like go to the woods, like camp and stuff. So, yeah.
Never heard this
My favorite moment was when we went to the peach orchard, which was very fun for a lot of reasons, like we got to eat some fresh peaches, but also Ruby and I had an opportunity to speak to a worker there, Angie, and it was a really great conversation. I think that was one of the most important conversations we had because we had the most polarizing beliefs that we'd encountered with this woman, and it was just a great experience because she was so sweet, and she shared that she wanted to come to New York and visit us like we were visiting her, and I think that really showed me the core humanity within society. And also we recorded that conversation and hopefully are going to make it available to everyone soon, so if you stay posted, that could be something that you can hear.
I'm surprised no one mentioned the biscuit place. So we went to a biscuit place for lunch, but it was like closing. Maple Street Biscuit. And as we walk in, there's like no one left, and the workers were gonna have a heart attack. That we're walking in with 10 of us, and they're like, "We're about to close." We're like, we're all the way from New York and New Jersey. We're here just because of your place. And we've been here last year. So while we're debating with the workers, and they're like, "Well, we only have like 8 biscuits left, and only a little bit of bacon." We're like, "We'll eat whatever you have. We're starving." Yeah, they had no grits. No, we had grits last year. So while this is all happening, there's 2 customers, and this one lady sees Bella, and she's like, "Are you guys a volleyball team?" And Bella's like, "Well, I do play volleyball, but no, we're not a team." And then this former teacher, grandma, just went crazy and talked to these guys. Oh, yeah, she said her name was Sally/Beyonce. And talked to these guys for like an hour. And, it was perfect. It was like, it was just meant to be. And it wasn't something, of course, that we planned. We were just trying to get some biscuits. Gravy and grits. It was delicious stuff. But yeah, that was, I thought you were gonna say that. Because they, of course, they interviewed her also, which was great. She was amazing. But, so thank you guys. All right.
So, I wanted to ask you a question.
Okay.
And knowing that you already have a full-time responsibility with like educating Cranford's future, and you've got Lori, you've got Jake, you've got Dom. Is Dom still here?
Dom left.
Okay. You've got a bar business that you got on the side.
I build bars, if
Yeah.
anyone needs a backyard patio bar.
Little plug there. Yeah, you also dedicate time to responding to my random text and emails at all hours, coming to these events, and also recruiting all the kids and going on a 12-day trip. Why has this kind of kept your interest?
I got it. So Mike called me some years ago, and he was like, "You think this would work?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Not really understanding where we were going with this. That was like 6 years ago now. Yeah, you didn't even know. But it has blown away my expectations. I am, as a teacher, I'm always kind of like inspired by the youth of America and like where they go and where these kids end up. But to be part of it in a different way outside of the classroom is life-changing for me. So I'm so glad that Mike created this great organization, and it's continuing and it's growing, and this is part of the growing part of it. But yes, I am so excited, and I can't wait to go again. Of course, Laura's like, "You're going away again?" And she thinks it's a vacation, and it is a little bit of a vacation. So she's always jealous of that. But I'm like, no, we are moving nonstop. But I'm learning, they're learning so much about Washington D.C., South Carolina, all these different people and occupations, and just great connections that I wouldn't have, and these students wouldn't have without beginnings. So, no, it's awesome.
All right. And I think what I'd say is that one of the best things I heard a parent say about our trip, if the first trip, was that her daughter came back tired, but it was a good tired. And I think that's probably how, I can't speak for all the kids I've gone on since, but I think Frank and I are definitely a good kind of tired.
Good tired.
So, I don't know if this has happened in Cranford or in Poly, but I've noticed that my kids have started getting into Fleetwood Mac again. I don't know, guys, have you guys been into Fleetwood Mac of late? I don't know if it was a cocktail. Okay. So there's a song called Landslide, which, do you know the song Landslide? So there's a couple of lyrics in the beginning, and I was listening to it driving in the car with my daughter Miranda, who is student number 1 for American Tribute. She's 20 now at University of Maryland. And there's a couple of lines that really moved me, literally almost to tears, embarrassingly. But there's at the very beginning, it's like the song's about this breakup, and the woman's thinking about her future. And the first song, I think Stevie Nicks, is that the? So she's singing, and the first line was, "Can I sail through the changing ocean tides?" And it kind of got me thinking about, we've all been sailing our way through some changing tides of late. I'd say for the last 5 or 10 years, there's a lot been happening in the country and in the world, and we've been going through that. And I would say for me personally, this trajectory where we are now, 5 years ago, the tides were kind of overwhelming me. I was feeling very hopeless, very just powerless, and I think this whole experience has kind of totally changed that and rejuvenated my feelings about myself and about our country and all of us. But I guess it also makes me think about, we think we've got it rough, and there definitely are challenges, but I think I was a history major, and Frank teaches history, and I do like to think that, these are our changing tides to deal with and fix. That's our generation, all the parents here. But our parents had their problems too, right? Our parents had the Vietnam War and a series of assassinations in the 60s, and the threat of mutually assured nuclear destruction. Our grandparents had to worry about World War II. Our great-grandparents, great-great-parents, whatever it is, had World War I, the Great Depression. So this is our changing tides that we've got to fix. And I feel like everybody here, by being here, part of this, we're trying to do our part to fix things now, not waiting for somebody else to do it. We're all doing that. So I thank you for that. There's another line that's right after that, which is where she says, "Can I handle the seasons of my life?" And when I hear that, I really think about what it must be like to be a young kid, my daughter, and wondering, like, what's the world got for me? Like, can I handle this? Can I handle being 20 or 30 or 40? And I choked up when I heard that line, thinking about Miranda's anxiety and my anxiety as a parent. But from what I've seen as a father of 3 children with my wife Christy, and from like what I've seen with all the kids who've traveled with us, I just want to say, like, the narrative that's out there in the media about the next generation being like whatever negative thing it is, pardon the French, it's a bunch of bullshit. You guys are these guys are so wonderful and amazing, and it's been such a privilege to be able to spend 12 days with the next generation. Our core values for American Tributaries are about curiosity, respect, compassion, and humility. And I really firmly believe, like, with those 4, we can all get along. You don't have to think like I did. You can think very differently. You can have different viewpoints. But we can get along as long as we have those things unconditionally. It can't be conditional, because once you say, I'll be nice to you if you're nice to me, it's a transaction. And that's the challenge, but that's how we get better. But these kids already have that. I've seen that. We don't, like, Frank and I aren't really working very hard to get these kids to talk to the random people in South Carolina. They're doing it on their own. I think the best that we do is we're kind of maybe giving a little focus and a little bit of direction. But I'm not worried about the next generation, because they're fantastic, everyone that I've seen. So I think I'd just like to, I don't have a glass with me, but I'd like to raise a toast to them. Oh, sorry. Just to say, you guys are doing amazing. So it's a privilege, I think, for me, and I speak for Frank to say, to be able to help you guys get ready for for the world that's out there. But it's still our responsibility to help kind of fix the world for you a little bit. So I'm not going to talk much about the trip. You can see some slides. You've already heard a lot from the kids and from the parents, because, I mean, really, in the end, this isn't just about a trip to South Carolina or a trip to any other part of the country, although we are laying the foundations. We'd love to go to other parts of the country, Appalachia, Gulf Coast. Zach is going to University of Alabama, so in a couple of years, I want to be visiting him when he's a senior. He can be our guide. It's really about kind of rejuvenating our civic health, and I think we hear a lot of bad stuff in the media. We're kind of almost encouraged to think negatively, but I feel as more positive as ever that we can fix this, and it's our responsibility to fix this. And I thank you guys all for being here and being a part of it. So, cheers.
Jersey, what does it say? Jersey Hooch? What does it say?
Jersey Hooch.
Yeah, sounds about right.
It's the Jersey Hooch.
Jersey Hooch. 2 bottles of craft whiskey from Newark's All Points West.
Oh, this is 0590.
I took my love, I took it down, climbed the mountain and I turned around.